Subs for Raiders dubs. Victory Monday, man. I'll tell you what, it just simply hits different. If you're a little hungover, if your voice hurts, if you're just proud of that Raiders win, I want you to hit that subscribe button because we are going to be bringing y'all the energy here on the Raiders Report. Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching our Victory Monday show after a huge 40-34 overtime win over the Seattle Seahawks. And today's show is sponsored by our new sponsor, RexMD. Head on over to rexmd.com/chat where you can save 90% off and only pay $2 per dosage. I mean, let's just face the facts here. Some guys have a hard time getting hard. RexMD, they're going to help you out here a little bit. We're going to put the link for you guys in the comments and in the description of today's video. So every time I come into work after a big-time Raiders win, I'm excited. It is so much easier waking up in the morning, walking into work. I got a little pep in my step, and I'm feeling good. So coming up here on today's show, I'm going to be giving away some game balls, okay? 5 game balls for some Raiders players. We'll sprinkle in some honorable mentions. I also got some game balls to give away to some Raiders Report watchers. And then at the end of the show, we got to talk about Josh Jacobs and could he potentially be getting a massive extension? I also am going to give my projection on what a Jacobs extension could look like. So let me know down in the comments section. Which Raiders player deserves a game ball? Every single person, including my mother, should be typing 28 for Josh Jacobs. But there are some other players that deserve some love, and we'll talk about them here on today's show. First game ball, got to give it to quarterback Derek Carr. In his first 8 passes, he threw 2 interceptions. He bounced back, though. He threw for 295 yards, 3 touchdowns, and made throws at very critical moments in this game as it went down in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter, and didn't really have to do too much in overtime because Jacobs made his life easier. But you know what? Derek did struggle to start, but he did really clean up his game, and I was very impressed by his maturity and overall his leadership on that team. Let's go to the next game ball. I got to give it to Andrew Billings, the defensive tackle. He didn't really super light up the stat sheet, but man, when you watch that game, he was really impressive on the interior. 4 tackles, a tackle for loss, 2 quarterback hits. He did have a sack. He opened up a lot of different things for, let's face it, Maxx Crosby. Opened up things for Bilal Nichols and really helped out players like Denzel Perryman rack up the amount of tackles that he did. In terms of an injury update, unfortunately, we don't have anything yet. All we know is that Billings was helped off the field. He was unable to put any weight whatsoever on his injured leg. I'm hoping that it's nothing too serious because Billings has been the best signing that the Raiders have had all offseason. That's even considering Duron Harmon. That's how good Andrew Billings has been this season for the Raiders. Let's go to the next guy, game ball. It's got to be Denzel Perryman. If I would have told y'all that the Raiders are going to have an interception, tell me the last name you would have picked. It would have been Perryman. And we know that this guy's a great run stopper. And over the past 2 weeks, you've seen Patrick Graham kind of allow him to be an athlete, go downhill, and just start ripping on some dudes. Well, guess what? He also showed that if you throw the ball directly to him, he can catch it. 9 tackles, led the team in tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a pass breakup, and he had an interception. I continue to be impressed by Perriman's overall physicality as a run stopper. But coming up with that interception and then returning it for 24 yards, it felt good, man, because that was a huge turning point, I thought, in that Raiders win. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, we got some Raiders Report game balls to give out to. And what do I mean exactly? Well, when we go live, we had over 126,000 people watch the show yesterday, and I want to say thank you to the MVPs that showed up and to our special MVP. Before I tell you about that, though, again, today's show is sponsored by RexMD. I'm going to give you a scenario. Imagine a world where you're at your job, you're watching the Raiders game, and you have a few too many beers, then you go home and, you're trying to get something up, and it's not going up. Well, guess what? RexMD, they're going to help you guys out. So, fellas, do you sometimes lack confidence in the bedroom? We've all had those nights where we get too nervous or maybe had too much to drink. There's nothing worse than not being able to put the stick shift in drive when you need it the most. But have no fear, RexMD is here, spreading cheer even when you have a few too many beers. RexMD is FDA approved and the most trusted leader in men's health. They have sponsored the Raiders Report to help You always be prepared. RexMD has made it simple, easy, and cost-effective to help all the men out there last longer and feel more comfortable in the bedroom. RexMD makes getting generic and branded Viagra or Cialis easy. Everything's online, even the prescription, and they deliver it directly to your door. No waiting rooms, no embarrassing trips to the doctor, no insurance, no copay. Take advantage of their best deal they have ever offered and save up to 90% off and only pay $2 per dosage with an exclusive link. Go to rexmd.com/chat for this limited time deal. Starter packs of generic Viagra and Cialis are now available for our listeners to get started. That's rexmd.com/chat for 90% off. Get the gift. Now, let's just say keeps on giving during the holiday season. I'm excited to be teaming up with all those out there. Now, I don't know if it's always going to work for me because personally I'm okay, but hey, RexMD, they're going to help out a lot of guys out there. It's rexmd.com/chat. Let's give away some game balls here. We got, some what? Yeah, speaking of balls, we got a lot of game balls to give out here. Sorry, Chugs is in my ear. I'm still got queso boot on my mind. Zane to save your Raiders podcast. Which Raiders podcast? I'm serious. I want to do a podcast with you. Anthony Gonzalez, Jason Klein, Stephanie Baca, Crypto, Artino dropped in a 400. Jose Delgado, Hootie Lord, John Borelli, Mark Inio, Jay Dizzle, Reyes Maldonado, Raider Ron threw in a 300 for an Abbey boot. We got Lucky Lopez, who bite himself in the face because he's a Seahawks fan. GJ, Anthony, Lucky Irish, Daniel Jimenez. I was talking to Wild 114 on my walk home from work yesterday. But you know what? All of those game balls, major shout out to all of y'all. But I got to give serious flowers to our Week 12 MVP Raiders report. And it goes to Killa Cruisin'. He won the boot. He sent in the highest super chat yesterday. And Killa Cruisin', I salute you. And if I ever need some extra tips on how to get my back muscles back, I'll hit you up. But Krilla, shout out to you. Everybody spam Killa Cruisin' for being the MVP of yesterday's watch party. Let's go to some more game balls here on the Raiders Report. Back to the field. It's Maxx Crosby, defensive end. I mean, I feel like every time I do this show, you got to mention Crosby. And the numbers that this man put up were spectacular. 4 tackles, a tackle for loss, 1.5 sacks. You get 1.5 sacks when you use RexMD. But 6 quarterback hits. I mean, you see this man gives so much effort on every single play. They call him Maxx Crosby for a reason. Mad Max is out there balling out. And the final name, well, I'll tell you about him here in a sec, but it's really no surprise. Remember, y'all, you can always interact with me on Twitter, Instagram. I'm going to be going live on Locals a little bit later on today. I usually go live. It's like 6 p.m. Eastern time where I talk to you guys about Victory Monday, answer all of y'all's questions. So please, don't be shy. Hit me up. Let's go to the game ball. This is the MVP right here, right? It's Josh Jacobs. It's not a secret. The game that Josh had on Sunday against Seattle might have been one of the best running back games that, just straight up, I have ever seen. He dominated on the ground, and he dominated being able to catch the football. 33 carries, 229 yards, a long touchdown run of 86. It's the longest touchdown run of the season. A nice average there at 6.9, and 2 touchdowns. But wait, there's more. 7 targets, 6 catches, 74 yards. I mean, this is a do-it-all bell cow back. And entering the season, people were wondering, how much is Jacobs going to get used? How much of the Raiders' offense is going to be evolved around Jacobs? When you drafted Zamir White, Britton Brown, but New England always goes by a running back by committee. But you know what? They declined his 5th-year option. Jacobs is saying, pay me, pay me, pay me, and we're going to talk about what that could potentially look like. Other honorable mentions here in terms of people who I thought played well. Devontae Adams had 7 catches, 74 yards, but picked up a few really, really key first downs. Matt Collins had a touchdown. Amir Abdullah had a touchdown. Foss Moreau scored a touchdown. Very impressed by Bilal Nichols' interior pressure on the interior. That sounds weird. Deron Harmon, strong safety. The offensive line deserves a lot of credit for opening up all those holes for Josh Jacobs. And then Patrick Graham. People are going to say, wait a minute, but the Raiders defense gave up 34 points. The Raiders defense made stops in overtime. They gave up only 13 points early on after 2 really bad turnovers. The Raiders defense, I thought, played very, very well and held Seattle to only 372 yards of offense. I don't know about y'all. I'm impressed by that defense and by Patrick Graham. Coming up next here on the show, Let's talk about Jacobs and an extension. We talked about this multiple times in the offseason. We've talked about it this year. Hell, my mailbag that I put out last week was around, could you franchise tag Josh Jacobs? Is an extension going to be coming? I know this. The Raiders want to bring back Jacobs next season. And from what I understand, both the franchise tag and extension are on the table. But I also know, according to a source, that Jacobs, he wants to test the open market. And I don't want Raider fans to see that and take that and be like, man, F Jacobs. If you're a running back and you know that you're really only going to get paid one time in your entire career in terms of making a big deal, I'm not really going to get too upset with Jacobs saying that he wants to test the open market. Also, that tells the Raiders that, hey, man, you want me? You got to pay me. So personally, you could franchise tag Jacobs, and it's going to be around 12.7. I've seen the number on Spotrac also around 12.6 mil in 2023. That option is available, but just because you can franchise tag him, that doesn't necessarily mean that Jacobs wants that. If the Raiders do decide to extend him, I would make it very incentive-based. Remember when Jacobs, his first 3 years in the NFL, everyone talked about injuries, right? Injuries. Well, you can't commit a lot of money to a running back if he's injury-prone. This season, even if he has an injured calf, he's been out there, and he's looked great. He looks like a running back trying to get paid. With that being said, though, I don't want to put a lot of guaranteed money. I don't want to make very high base. But if he goes out there and he plays the way he's doing this season, you could pay him even more, which is why I want it to be incentive-based. So Josh Jacobs' contract projection, I believe, is this. If you're the Raiders and you're going to extend him, I see it being like a 3-year, $38.1 million extension. So essentially it's $12.7 million a year. If I'm the Raiders, I say, hey, you're going to make the franchise tag at 12.7. Or we can give you 3 years at 12.7, comes out to 38.1. But I'm going to give you $22 million guaranteed, which is just a little bit more than what Nick Chubb got. And Chubb also signed somewhat of a similar extension. We got to face the facts. You're not going to get a Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Ezekiel Elliott deal. Those deals are not going to happen anymore. When I look at contract extensions for a running back like Jacobs, I look at Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones. And since he's going to be the next guy that gets a deal, if I'm Jacobs, I'm asking for just a little bit over Dalvin Cook at 12.6, which is why I gave him the number at 12.7. Jacobs' career rushing stats. In 2021, 9 touchdowns. 2020, had a great year, 12 touchdowns. 2019, 7 touchdowns. But all of these years, he's battled injuries. For the first time, and I don't want to jinx it because he's a hell of a back, he hasn't dealt with any injuries, and he's gone above and beyond. He's also able to catch the football. I mean, you're looking at a dude right now who is on a ridiculous pace, and I'm saying a ridiculous pace. Rushing yards, he's on pace for over 2,000 total yards, and I don't blame Jacobs for trying to get paid. You can't, because the Raiders already said, we're going to decline your 5th-year option. And if the Raiders would have taken that 5th-year option, Jacobs would be on the books next season for about $8 million. When you're having the type of season that Jacobs is having, when you're on pace for 1,791 rushing yards, 2,293 total yards of offense, you got to go get paid. You got to try to get paid. And right now, he is not only... he's the front runner, I would say, for Offensive Player of the Year. If the Raiders weren't so bad at 4-7, he would have a legitimate argument to be Offensive Player of the Year. Not only if the season were to end today, would he be the rushing leader, because he is on pace right now to lead the NFL in rushing yards, 1,159 yards. Next closest guy, they call him King Henry, at 1,048. Nick Chubb at 1,039. Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders. Then when you look at total yard leaders, he's doing that too. Leads the NFL, 1,484 yards of total offense. He is a true bell cow running back, and if his body can hold up, my man's going to get paid. Here might be, though, my favorite stat, and this is the one that I love because no other running back has contributed more to their team's rushing output than Jacobs this season. In fact, Jacobs has contributed for over 90% of the Raiders' rushing offense. Derrick Henry, for comparison, is at about 78%. That's how great Jacobs has been. First down runs this season, Jacobs, 67. The next closest players are both quarterbacks, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, 55 and 50. The next closest running back has 19 less first down runs than Jacobs. All I know is this. He is killing it through the air, on the ground. He is doing everything for this team, which is now why I ask you this question. What do the Raiders do? What does McDaniels do? What should Dave Ziegler do with Jacobs? Do you franchise tag him? Type F. Do you extend him? You could type your E down in the comments. Or you let him walk. You say, you know what? Not going to pay a running back all that type of money. Type W for walk. My answer here around Jacobs is this. I would franchise tag him at $12.7 million in 2023. That's what I would do. Do I understand that, yeah, you could have had him for $8 million, but you know what? Jacobs has just played that well. I don't want him to go anywhere, and I would franchise tag him at 12.7. Here's the part that I know some people aren't going to like. I wouldn't extend Josh Jacobs. I'm going to say it again because some people are going to be like, wow, you wouldn't extend him? No. I wouldn't do it because I believe that the running back position is a replaceable position in the NFL. Is he a great back? Yes. Is he playing like the best running back in the NFL right now? Yes. But you know what? I would rather invest some of that extra money that I would give Jacobs, and I'd invest it on the defensive side of the football. So here's my thing, though, okay? The only way I would say an extension is acceptable in my book, and that's if you move on from Carr and you're trying to draft a young quarterback. Because if you're going to say, okay, we're going to move on from DC, save $110.68 million, well, now you have a little bit of extra money where you can give that to Jacobs. Also, I don't trust a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback and then a back like Zamir White or whoever else you're going to try to put back there. If you're going to get a young quarterback, then I want him to have Josh Jacobs. It's a tough dilemma. The Raiders have a lot to do. I'll say this, though, man. You were 2-7. You keep winning football games, I can make an argument then to change my mind on keeping DC and keeping Josh Jacobs next season. But as I know it right now, I only want to franchise tag him. I don't want to give him a long-term deal. And the only way I do want to keep Jacobs on an extension is if you're going to get rid of Derek Carr, save money, and then you can invest some of that other money in Jacobs' defense and trying to find another player. That's my take on it. Shout out to everyone who watched today's show. Jeremy Jugs and I are going to be live tomorrow on Tuesday for Raiders Live, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be live on Thursday as well for Thursday Night Football, and hopefully everyone has those notifications turned on because I just have a feeling this is going to be a crazy week on the Raiders Report.